Why would a good God allow suffering, especially in the life or in the lives of those who believe in Him? Think about it for a moment. You see, conventional wisdom says that if a terrorist is killed by his or her own bomb, we somehow seem to accept that. If a drunk and reckless driver suffers a serious injury as a result of an accident he or she caused while driving in a drunken stupor, that's sad, but we also kind of seem to accept that. When a rapist defiles a child, or perhaps a sodomist just messes up with somebody, infecting them with HIV virus, if such a person suffers at the hands of mob justice, well, conventional wisdom say that the rapist or the sodomist is suffering for their heinous acts. But what about when an innocent person who perhaps was in the midst of some terrorist attack is maimed or killed by that grenade attack? What about a Christian who suffers a debilitating injury at the hands of a reckless driver? What about a child with leukemia or some other form of cancer who is going through painful chemo and radiotherapy? Or maybe a young mother who sits with her children, staring into the future in the midst of the reality of her husband who has just been killed through an unexpected plane accident. Perhaps like just what we've witnessed recently with the Ethiopian airline going down. What about that? I'm Reverend Kenny Isige, the senior pastor of CITAM Thika Road Church. Join me as over the couple next videos, we talk about the whole issue of suffering. My prayer is that any of us who are suffering or maybe walking with those who are undergoing some pain, that we may just get some responses, biblical responses. They may not be very exhaustive, but they'll help us and give us some perspective and bring us to a place where we can appreciate how suffering may work for us. This is CITAM Church Online. Why do bad things happen to good people? People who believe in the Most High God, or people who at least are trying to be good believers. I think one reason is this. Bad things happen to good people because it's a stark reminder that we're living in a fallen world. You see, there's something wrong with creation as you and I know it today. The story of creation is told us in the book of Genesis chapter 1 and 2. And through this story, we see God executing an intricate plan. And He goes day by day creating certain things in such order, such perfect symphony, perfect harmony. And at the end of each creative day, He evaluates what He creates and He affirms that everything He created was good. But then we come to Genesis chapter 3, the fall of man, where man was disobedient to God. And as a result of this disobedience, we see sin coming into the world. And with sin, we see a number of vices and terrible things, pain and suffering coming into the world. We see death coming into the world. We see childbirth and painful childbirth at that coming in. We see weeds sprouting up and making it difficult for the farmer who tills the soil in order that he may earn from his work. We see toilsome labor coming through. You see, the suffering and pain that we go through is a reminder to you and to me that the true nature of humanity is indeed fallen. We are living in a fallen world. Things are no longer in the perfect state in which God created them and which God intended them to be. Suffering and pain are a reminder of this fallen world, the fallen world in which you and I live. However, recognizing that God's plan for creation was and is a world where things work in symphony and harmony with no suffering, means that God identifies with our fallen state, and that all that we suffer because of that fallen state, God knows it and He identifies with it. And because He identifies with this fallen state of this world, your fallen and my fallen state, that indeed we can come to God for help. And indeed God does help us through our suffering and through our pain. The reality is this: we go through some painful things, painful events. But when we come to God, we come to a God who knows, who identifies, who never intended that we would go through suffering and pain, whose will for you and for me is that we live a life that just operates in harmony, in symphony. Are you suffering or in pain, whether emotionally, physically, or mentally? You need not go through that suffering and pain alone. Why don't you call on God? And we're willing to stand with you and counsel with you as you go through your suffering, as you go through your pain. At this time, we identify with those who are just trying to come to grips with the reality of the loss of their loved ones through that Ethiopian airline plane that took off and just a couple of minutes later plunged out of the air and into the ground. Oh, our prayers are with you. We stand with you through this difficult, heart-rending time. We stand with you and call on God with you and on your behalf. And we welcome those of you who are suffering and going through this pain just to come that we may stand together and trust God for healing through this pain. Thank you for watching. Feel free to get in touch with us, give us feedback, or ask a question on our social media platforms, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, or perhaps on Instagram. The details will appear on the screen just below us. We'd love to minister to you. I'm Reverend Kenny Isige from CITAM, Thika Road Church. You're watching CITAM Church Online.